Most piano players miss something huge in measure 1. And once you see it, you'll never look at music the same way. This is because the opening measure of any piece holds the key to everything. Rhythm, fingering, articulation, the mood and emotion of the piece. And how you start a piece will either build your confidence or break it. Now in today's video, make sure you stay tuned to the very end because I have a crazy announcement that you're not going to want to miss. Hey piano people, I'm Ashlee. Welcome to Ashlee Young Music Studio. I've practiced over 20,000 hours. I've taught adult piano players from all over the world. I paid over $100,000 for 2 degrees in piano performance. And here on this channel, I teach you how to practice smarter, not harder. Let's dive in. As you might have heard in the beginning of this video, we are working on the Prelude in C by Bach. Okay, so the first thing that most piano players miss in this piece, in measure 1, is that it's patterns. This whole entire piece is all broken chords. Now, maybe that's obvious to you, maybe it's not, but let's break it down and why it matters. So if we look at measure 1, we can see that we're playing the notes C, E, G, C, E, right? And if we scan through measure 1, you can see that that's actually the only notes that we play, is just those notes over and over and over again. Now we're gonna break our rule a little bit because I know in this piece we're really just looking at measure 1, but just for the sake of recognizing the pattern, let's go ahead and look at measure 2. In measure 2, we have C, D, A, D, F, right? And that's also just a broken chord with the same notes over and over again. And then in measure 3, just B, D, G, D, F, right? And that's just a chord. Now, your music theory knowledge here doesn't really matter. Like if you know what these chords are, great. If you can analyze them, great. And if not, that's okay. You can still recognize that it's just a pattern of notes being played over and over in the same way in each measure. And either way, regardless of what your music theory knowledge is, it's important to know because it helps you read the notes in this piece so much faster when you can recognize that it's just measures of patterns over and over again. And this opens up a world of possibility for the kinds of practice methods that we can use to learn the piece faster. But if you were stuck just looking at individual notes, it would take you a lot longer to learn this piece and you would never really be able to play it with like the freedom or flow that it requires in order to actually make it sound musical. So now that we know the first thing that most piano players miss, it sets us up for the second thing that most piano players miss in measure 1 of this piece, which is the practice methods. Now, anytime you have a piece that's full of patterns, which, spoiler alert, every piece is full of some kind of pattern, automatically you have some practice methods that you can use that are going to make it easier. Now, because this piece is full of broken chords, let's talk about some ways to practice it that are going to help you learn it so much faster and so much better. So the first thing that we could do is take just the right hand of every single measure, but because we're talking about measure 1, we're just going to take the right hand of measure 1. And we could block the notes that the right hand is playing together and play just a chord, or play those notes all together at the same time. The right hand is just playing G, C, and E. Okay, and we play that through the whole measure. And on the music that I'm using, it has fingers 1, 2, and 4. So we want to make sure that we're using the same fingering. And what we can do in measure 1 is just play 2, 3, 4, right? And that's all my right hand is doing. I'm playing those notes in a broken fashion individually, but I can block them together to form a chord. Now, when I go beyond measure 1 and I do this, what's happening is it's forcing my brain to start to think of all of the notes in the right hand in measure 1 as a unit. And so therefore, in addition to not reading note by note, my hand is actually going to start to develop the muscle memory to think of those notes as a chord. So even if you don't know what chord it is, your hand will start to remember what it feels like. Because ideally in this piece, you're not moving every individual finger to every individual note. You're in this position, and then in measure 2, you're in this position, and then in measure 3, you're in this position, and then measure 4, you're in this position. And that's so much simpler, right? So much simpler. So taking the right hand by itself and just blocking, we call it chord blocking those broken chords and playing the notes all at the same time is going to help your brain think of them as a unit, get there faster, play them with more freedom and flow. Now, we can do the same thing with the left hand notes. Right? The left hand notes might not necessarily on their own always form a chord, but they are a pattern. So in the first measure, it's just C and E. And similarly, if I block those together, my brain is going to start to think of them as a unit instead of as individual notes. So I'm going to be able to find them faster, play them with more flow. Now, I could do that for the whole left hand in the whole piece, but we're just talking about measure 1, right? Okay, and last thing, another practice method you could do is after you did the right hand chords and after you did the left hand chords, you could actually do this hands together. So I could take the left hand notes and the right hand notes and just play it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I could do this in every measure of the piece to really solidify the harmonic changes, meaning the chord changes that are happening in every single measure. Now, bonus points, if you do know the chords and you say those chords out loud as you are practicing this, you're gonna get even faster. Like I said, if you don't know the chords, this method still will work, but if you say the chords out loud, then you're also reinforcing that cognitive memory as you practice. If you do these practice methods, you will be able to learn this piece so much faster, and I have a lot more to say about the practice methods, and I will share that with you in just a moment. So the third thing that most piano players miss in Prelude in C by Bach is pedaling. And this one is kind of tricky because this piece is technically from the Baroque period. And stylistically, in the Baroque period, we don't pedal a lot because composers were composing on instruments that didn't even have a pedal. Now, there's a whole argument because like if Bach were alive right now, would he be using the pedal? Absolutely. But he didn't have access to the pedal for the instruments that he was composing for. And so Bach himself never wrote pedaling marks in the score because he didn't have a pedal. But nowadays, you can pedal Bach's music, but stylistically, we don't usually pedal the whole piece. But there are a few exceptions to that, and this is one of those exceptions. When you listen to recordings of this Prelude in C, you'll often notice that it's pedaled all the way through the piece. And this is just something that's kind of evolved where people have started playing it this way, and so it's become kind of the norm. It's very pedaled, even though it technically comes from the Baroque period. Now, you can add pedal in this piece for sure, but when you are looking at measure 1, and when you are looking at this piece, or any piece at the very beginning stages, do not add the pedal yet. It's very important that you don't add the pedal from the very beginning stages because it creates a lot of bad habits because it completely alters the sound of the piece. And pedaling is very different from playing legato. And pedaling is very different from dynamics. Pedaling is a musical effect that can enhance the overall musicality of the piece, but if you add it too early, it ends up being a crutch, or worse, it just covers up and creates a lot of bad habits. So first, especially in measure 1, practice it without the pedal until you have accuracy with your notes, your fingering, you have the dynamics, and then way later in the process, you can add the pedaling to enhance the overall musicality. This is such an important thing to note that a lot of piano players go against. Now, in a piece like this, because there's no pedaling written in the score, the question, of course, is, okay, so how do I pedal? Like, where am I pedaling if there's no pedaling written in the score? And this is a great question. It's a really tricky question because a lot of music doesn't have the pedaling instructions written in the score because it's such an artistic interpretation type of thing. Now, if you missed it, I recently released an entire course about pedaling where I teach you what the pedals do, what the symbols are, how to actually pedal properly and how to practice pedaling if it's written in the score. But then there's also an entire section where I show you with real musical examples how to make artistic choices about where to pedal if there's no pedaling written in the score. So this piece, if you were trying to decide like, how do I pedal this? The stuff in that course would help you. So I'm gonna link that course in the description below so you can grab it. It will answer all of your pedaling questions and ensure that you are pedaling everything correctly. And then these are just a few of the things that we want to look at when we're looking at measure 1 of this Prelude in C piece. And if you had any insights just from this quick little overview that we did of measure 1, then you would get a ton from the bundle of videos that I put together for beyond the first measure with Prelude in C. This bundle includes replays of classes where I actually listened to specific students play Prelude in C and dove deep with them on topics about technique, how to avoid pain with all of the chord changes, how to add dynamics, and all sorts of topics that we talk about that came up naturally when they were actually practicing and learning these pieces. I bundled these 4 classes together and I want to make them available to you for an insanely low price, and I mean like cup of coffee low price. And so you'll find the link right here on the end screen, along with another video where I show you exactly how to practice chord blocking, which is that technique that we were talking about in the first part of this video. You can grab both on the end screen. Happy practicing.